We are back. Welcome. We are taking a look at the Doge subcommittee's first hearing on government spending. Y'all, Elon is not playing games. He's not playing games. He is not playing games. So let's go ahead and see what's going on.
Fraud, less than $5 billion has been recovered. The idea in government that you cannot have speed and security is fiction. I urge Congress to consider making the following legislative changes. Number one, update the 1974 Privacy Act to allow for data sharing and matching. Number two, fund a budget for fraud prevention in each appropriation bill. The USDA spends 1/20th of 1% on fraud prevention. Mandate that individuals caught stealing from entitlement programs pay hefty fines and are removed from the program permanently. And finally, eliminate broad-based categorical eligibility. This committee has a choice: continue losing this war against criminal cartels and nation states, or fight back and save $1 trillion annually. Fraud prevention is not benefit prevention. It's the key to ensuring that every dollar reaches those who truly need it. Hardworking Americans rely on these programs not just to survive, but to build better lives for their families. When criminals exploit the system, they just don't steal money.
When
They
who
steal
exploit the system?
opportunities. Stopping fraud isn't about denying benefits, it's about protecting them. This crime has two victims. The first are the taxpayers, and the second are those seeking benefits. The fraudsters, cartels, and criminal syndicates are watching this hearing, I'm sure of it. It's time to show them that America will not fund its own destruction. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Talcove. I now recognize Ms. Royal for her opening statement.
Good morning, Chairwoman Green, Ranking Member Stansberry, and committee members. My name is Dawn Royal. I'm a certified welfare fraud investigator, two-term past president, and a current director of the United Council on Welfare Fraud. The United Council on Welfare Fraud is a national professional organization dedicated to protecting the integrity in our nation's public assistance programs. We are the only national organization singularly focused on the detection, prevention, and prosecution of welfare fraud. For too long, agency bureaucrats have pitted citizens' access to welfare programs against the integrity of those programs. Access versus integrity should never be an either-or dichotomy. We can all agree that access to public assistance is crucial. America's citizens should not be hungry or deprived of medical care because of their inability to pay. However, making sure vulnerable citizens have access to these welfare programs should not mean that we simply turn a blind eye to integrity. We do not pursue the prevention, detection, and prosecution of if we do not pursue the prevention, detection, and prosecution of fraud, taxpayers become the victims as the welfare programs become slush funds for anyone wanting to supplement their income with SNAP benefits, absolve themselves from the financial responsibility of medical bills, and using Medicaid to further taxpayer exploitation by taking advantage of cash assistance, energy assistance, childcare, and other social welfare programs. One example of a welfare fraud is a case that I investigated that was criminally prosecuted last year. The applicant mother failed to disclose her children's father as well as his employment and income on multiple applications she submitted for Medicaid, SNAP, and low-income energy assistance. The co-defendant father worked a steady job, earning a six-figure salary, and provided an enviable lifestyle for his family, including vacations, luxury vehicles, snowmobiles, motorhomes, lavish gifts, including one from the wife to the husband, which was a $1,200 bottle of bourbon. Evidence we presented at trial included a candidate registration forms filed by the defendant father when he ran for town council and later mayor of the town where he declared he lived at the same address provided by his wife on her public assistance programs. This was a case of greed, but it emphasizes how easy it was for these criminals to make false statements on applications in order to receive benefits from multiple programs that they were never eligible for. I could spend the rest of my day providing countless examples of how taxpayer-funded programs are exploited, and the message would be the same. Investigators continue to be hamstrung by antiquated regulations, conflicting directives from federal agencies, and the lack of access to technology. Sadly, investigators have also found themselves at odds with the career bureaucrats who recite watered-down facts about fraud in order to promote their political agendas. Specifically, we can look to the career bureaucrats who have historically claimed that the fraud rate in SNAP is less than 1%. The disregard for the value of integrity is evidenced by the less than 1/20th of 1% of the SNAP budget spent on the prevention, detection, and prosecution of fraud. As part of Medicaid unwinding debacle, the bureaucrats specifically directed states that they, and I quote, cannot recover or recoup the cost of services from a beneficiary, even if they have been found after an administrative hearing or criminal proceeding to have committed Medicaid beneficiary fraud or abuse, end quote. Sadly, it is already apparent that career bureaucrats are not being totally transparent as they attempt to protect spending and broken programs. We fail to understand how mitigating the rampant fraud in Medicaid, SNAP, and other welfare programs stands up or strengthens the welfare programs. Fact is, the opposite is true. Ignoring fraud and gaslighting fraud statistics erodes the very foundations of the programs that are essential to their future viability. There are things this committee can do to help the investigators fighting the war on fraud. Number one, eliminate self-attestation in the application process for all programs. Number two, funding for technology that includes identity verification tools that will help prevent fraud. The current pay and chase model is not sustainable. Number three, immediately implement the National Accuracy Clearinghouse, the NAC, that will provide data to states to prevent duplicate participation in all of the social welfare programs. And four, allocate direct funding with mandates restricting the use of the funding to the prevention, detection, and prosecution of fraud. In closing, we're at a crossroads. Those of us who have firsthand knowledge of the degree in which public welfare programs are being attacked know that reform is absolutely necessary. Reform to the recipient application process, the billing process in Medicaid, and how SNAP benefits are processed, and how providers and retailers are authorized. We thank you for the opportunity for UCOF to participate in this hearing. We feel that the investigators who are on the front lines fighting the daily battle against the war on fraud need to be at the table and participating in the development of action plans that will make a difference in protecting the programs and defending the taxpayers.
Thank you, Ms. Royal. I now recognize Mr. Whitson for his opening statement.
Chairwoman Green, Ranking Member Stansbury, members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. On the campaign trail, President Trump promised to take on the bloated bureaucracy in D.C., rebuild trust in the DOJ.
Okay, y'all, why is it that nobody ever has their stuff memorized? They just be reading.
And on day one, he started delivering on those promises with a wave of executive orders and the official launch of Doge, which he, of course, tasked Elon Musk to lead. Already, Doge efforts have brought to the public's attention countless examples of wasteful spending, including $59 million paid to luxury hotels in New York to house illegal immigrants, $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. The list goes on.
What?
But rather than applauding the work of Doge, the left has launched a coordinated campaign to try to demonize Mr. Musk with the hope of shifting focus away from the disastrous waste, fraud, and abuse that occurred on Biden's watch. But guess what? It's not working. Because no matter what political party people hail from, the vast majority of Americans agree that $10 million worth of food funneled to Al-Qaeda was probably not the best use of taxpayer money. But there's another source, a key source of wasteful spending that Doge and the subcommittee should set their sights on next, and that's Medicaid waste and fraud. While initially meant as a program for the truly needy, Medicaid has bloated into a massive welfare program for millions of able-bodied adults lured into the trap of government dependency. And as Medicaid has grown, so too has mismanagement. Today, more than $1 in $5 spent on Medicaid is improper. In Medicaid alone, fraud and mismanagement is on track to cost U.S. taxpayers, get this, more than $1 trillion over the next 10 years. When it comes to the problem of improper payments, the Medicaid program is the biggest culprit, encompassing nearly 1/3 of all federal improper payments. And more than 80% of Medicaid improper payments are due to one thing: eligibility errors. If Congress wants to help President Trump address wasteful spending, then targeting eligibility errors in Medicaid should be one of your top priorities. Bottom line, to address this challenge, Congress can take 3 decisive actions. So first, Congress can strengthen the Medicaid program through legislative action. That would include repealing Biden's disastrous Medicaid streamlining rule, which ties the hands of states trying to remove ineligible enrollees. You can and should do this through reconciliation, and it will produce $164 billion in savings if you do. You can also strengthen verification requirements to ensure only eligible individuals receive benefits and ensure a nationwide NAC is implemented without delay. Second thing Congress can do is help President Trump's DOGE effort by ensuring that entrenched partisan bureaucrats don't stand in the way of reform. So Musk and his DOGE team have already found hundreds of billions of dollars funneled into wasteful, fraudulent, and flat out insane projects. But they've only scratched the surface. If this much fraud has been exposed in just a few weeks, imagine what else is buried under layers of red tape and government excuses. But guess what? All of these insane projects have one thing in common. They were all approved and funded by unelected bureaucrats. And these and other entrenched bureaucrats are already pledging to fight against President Trump's efforts to improve government accountability and efficiency. Personnel is policy. And without competent staff to faithfully execute the president's agenda, the DOGE project will fail. And this is where Congress can help. Congress can support the president in carrying out his DOGE effort by making all executive branch employees at will, codifying the president's authority to fire unproductive or insubordinate agency employees as needed. At the same time, Congress can grant the president authority to permanently eliminate vacant positions and consolidate non-essential positions across agencies and departments to help promote efficiency and put the right people in the right seat. The third thing,
Shy, y'all know how many unemployable people gonna be back out on the job market
by passing
Shy, it's people who have made entire careers in the federal government and don't know how to damn log into the computer good.
Undone by a future president with the stroke of a pen. To make President Trump's DOGE reforms permanent, Congress must act. And the best way to do this
gonna give him trouble
is to pass the REINS Act. This would return Article 1 budgetary power of the purse to Congress while promoting deregulation. It would also help lock in the DOGE reforms and cement President Trump's legacy as the most consequential deregulatory and cost-cutting president in U.S. history. The American people are watching. It's time for Congress to act. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Whitson. I now recognize Mr. Hetler Goddett for his opening statement.
Thank you, Chairwoman Green, Ranking Member Stansberry, and members of the subcommittee. My name is Dylan Hetler Goddett, and I am the Director of Government Affairs at the Project on Government Oversight, or POGO. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you here today to talk about the critical issue of bringing more accountability and transparency to federal spending, including rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. Since our founding in 1981, POGO has been focused on promoting more accountability and rooting out wasteful spending and promoting efficiency, especially at the Department of Defense. We have a long and well-established track record on these issues, and we take a back when it comes to promoting a better and more effective government, which necessarily includes a federal government that is a good and responsible steward of taxpayer dollars. Let's take a moment to pause here to talk a little bit about terms that we're going to hear a lot today and the difference between them. Waste is different from fraud. Fraud is different from abuse, and abuse is different from both. When we talk about improper payments, they are a subset of those other 3 categories. But that doesn't tell us the whole picture either. Sometimes improper payments are a function of bad record keeping. Sometimes they are a function of outdated information technology systems. Sometimes they come about through human error, and sometimes they come about through negligence. There are a variety of reasons why improper payments happen. It just simply is not the case that improper payments are only a function of bad people doing bad things with bad intent. That doesn't mean we shouldn't focus on trying to mitigate improper payments, and that certainly doesn't mean that the American people should not be concerned with how their tax dollars are used. The good news is that there are some time-tested solutions and tools to help mitigate these problems. For example, when we think about the independence of Inspector General,
I'm trying to work.
We're talking about a resource that is.
Why is he over here with these Roy Orbison glasses on for?
In fiscal year
What's
2023 alone, Inspector General identified over $93 billion worth of potential savings to taxpayers.
Nah, I'm
Whistleblowers
be
are
quiet
also an
because you might be
incredible
the only
resource
one
to
who
the
ain't
American
reading off a piece of
taxpayer.
paper.
Through the IRS's whistleblower program alone, billions of dollars have been recouped from tax cheats since the inception of that program in 2007.
Okay, thank you.
Whistleblowers have
'cause I
also
didn't
played
know.
an instrumental
Let
role
me
in
know
helping the Department
something.
of Justice pursue
Good
false
looking
claims
out.
act
Hey,
cases
Gail, how you
that have resulted
doing?
in billions of dollars in reclaims settlement costs. It seemed to me that if an administration were serious about wanting to root out waste, fraud, and abuse, they would support and resource whistleblowers and inspectors general. They would not demonize them, and they would certainly not fire them en masse in an unlawful midnight purge. There are other reforms we can think about too, reforms that are more technical, but just as important. Key statutes such as the Federal Funding Accountability and Transparency Act, the Data Act, and critical platforms like usaspending.gov were really important improvements and innovations when they came about, but they are in need of overhaul and reform. Currently, the status quo is that we have an extraordinarily hard time tracking federal dollars from end to end. This is due in large part to a broken chain of data collection, of reporting information, and the ability to monitor and track in real time what is happening with federal dollars. This informational black hole is where a lot of impropriety happens. It's where waste, fraud, and abuse live. And yes, this is where improper payments often happen. But more importantly, we also don't have a good, clear, and consistent way of understanding what is happening with tax dollars at the end point. What is the impact that we're having? What is the return on investment that we're having? We now have an annual budget of close to $7 trillion a year. We can't say with any degree of clarity and consistency what we're getting for all of that money. We have some more good news, though. There are bipartisan efforts, and there have been for years, to try and clean up this situation. We at POGO have had the privilege and pleasure of working on some of those initiatives. We were a part of the Federal Taxpayers' Right to Know Act being passed into law just a couple of years ago, which created for the very first time a program inventory of all the programs in the federal government, and that would be available to the public. We have worked with a member of this very committee, the House Oversight and Accountability Committee, to introduce a piece of legislation that would bring more transparency to federal subaward reporting. We have supported and endorsed multiple pieces of legislation that take direct aim at the improper payment issue. We also have additional ideas that don't yet have congressional champions. One proposal is to clean up and modernize and standardize the award descriptions that are available in USA Spending to make them more useful and relevant. We have another proposal to harmonize the amount of data and information we collect between contract spending and non-contract spending. We stand ready, willing, and able to work with anybody who wants to work with us on these common sense solutions. Lastly, I want to put
Exactly,
in a quick word
grade
for Congress.
59, welcome.
And specifically, I want to
The gentleman's time has expired.
Now, why y'all gonna do that man like that? Now,
can't
come
see the flashing
on.
light.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Hetler.
Why y'all gonna do that
We
man like
appreciate your
that?
testimony.
That's cold. That's cold.
I now recognize myself for 5 minutes of questions. I'd like to thank our witnesses today for your testimonies and
Hey,
the
Shawnee
suggestions
G.
that you
Yeah.
have brought before this committee.
Yeah,
I'd
they
also
had
like
me
to
in all
thank
kinds of
Chairman
YouTube
Comer
jail.
for this opportunity to chair the
I
historic
was in YouTube
Oversight
prison.
Subcommittee on
Forget
Doge.
jail. I was in YouTube prison.
Americans
yo.
are shocked to learn that $2.7 trillion of their hard-earned tax dollars have been stolen or wasted in improper payments since 2003. You see, in the private sector, companies can't continue to run if they keep employees that allow waste and abuse with their resources. But that has continued for decades here in the federal government. Mr. Talcove, do private sector companies have a lower rate of improper payments than the federal government?
Yes, the fraud rate, that the criminals are taking advantage of in the public sector is around 20%. In the private sector, it's around 3%. And it's really because the tools that are used in the private sector aren't used in the public sector. Front-end identity verification, self-certification, and then finally making sure that individuals are who they say they are. If we start using these tools, you will see the fraud rate go down dramatically, because for the most part, this fraud isn't taking place by real individuals. It's individuals whose identities have been stolen on the dark web. They use that information pretending to be somebody else. And because of the antiquated systems, processes, and technologies in place in government programs, they're able to steal at scale.
Right. So, Mr. Talcove, we would say that private companies that pretty much have to exist on a 20% profit rate, they are not allowed. They can't continue to be successful if they were to allow their customers' data to be stolen like that and used by criminals. However, the federal government, who can continue printing checks and continue in operation, never fixes its problems because it can't be forced to go out of business. Would you agree with that? Yes or no?
Yes. One of the things I noticed during COVID,
That's a
was the
whole
criminals
problem.
learned that government was the mark because it never runs out of money. And they focus on it at scale. And then the likelihood of getting caught is virtually zero.
I think it's outrageous for Americans to know that their identity can be stolen and then used for child trafficking, drug trafficking, and terrorism, like you stated in your opening statement. Ms. Royal, your testimony states that many programs operate under essentially an honor system in which applicants need not verify their identity, income, residency, or other key eligibility factors. You call this a trust everyone instead of a trust by verify approach. Does this mean the federal government in some states are giving out
we live
billions
by
of
trust but
dollars to
verify over
individuals
here
without verifying who they are or whether they meet program eligibility requirements?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
That's outrageous. Do states have enough incentive to prevent fraud and to recover improper payments?
No, and in fact, states are hesitant to spend their state dollars to protect federal dollars.
Would greater investment in program integrity efforts yield a positive return for taxpayers?
Yes, it could easily be self-funding.
Amazing. Mr. Whitson, your testimony states that both the Biden and Obama administrations issued rules and guidance that made it harder for states to verify eligibility for Medicaid. You say that repealing Biden's Medicaid streamlining rule would save $164 billion over 10 years because the rule restricts eligibility verification that states can perform. Can you explain why this rule is so costly?
Yeah, so the rule does a number of things, but for instance, it prohibits states from verifying eligibility more than once a year. So for non-disabled folks to just go in and look and say, hey, are you still eligible for the program? It says you are forbidden from doing that any more often than once a year. And so obviously people's lives change, and so they may become ineligible. And so it's designed to keep them on the program. Another thing, it prohibits in-person or phone interviews to verify their identity. So people apply for it, and then the person on the other end says, oh, I just want to call and make sure this is a real person, not someone in another country or whatever. The rule prohibits that. And so there's a number of other provisions. It also opens a lengthy reconsideration periods. And this is where illegal immigrants are able to obtain the benefits. And so basically it says once you get these benefits, you can't interfere with it for a 90-day period or longer. And so there's a number of horrible things. But.
So we can't verify if someone is illegal or legal receiving benefits. Just to correct that, yes or no?
You have to wait a state has to wait at least 90 days. And actually what we're seeing is it's led some states to wait as long as 13 years. And so on the part,
unbelievable. My time has expired. Thank you very much. I now recognize Mr. Lynch from Massachusetts for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. First of all, let me congratulate you and also Ms. Stansbury on your new positions. And I want to thank the witnesses for your testimony. We've already heard some good ideas about how to work together. And Mr. Hetler-Gaudette, I for one would be most open to working with POGO and trying to work on some of the legislative ideas that you have to actually get at some of this waste, fraud, and abuse. Since this is my first opportunity to speak in this new subcommittee as the representative for the 8th Congressional District in Massachusetts, I want to first of all make clear that my primary purpose in seeking appointment to this subcommittee is for the singular and sacred purpose to defend our democracy, which I believe is under attack in this country, and to uphold my oath to support and defend the Constitution against those who might secretly or openly seek its destruction. Make no mistake, this is a moment for representative democracy. This is a test of our resolve. In the coming days and weeks, we will all get to decide whether we stand with a couple of billionaires who, despite their own financial successes, still harbor such grievances in their hearts that after all that democracy has provided to them, they remain animated by the desire to dismantle this democratic government and to punch down at some of the weakest and most vulnerable in our society. Two men who clearly understand that the easiest way to incite large numbers of people is to use social media to exploit the dynamic forces of hatred and fear. Madam Chair, if we're going after waste, fraud, and abuse, let's start with abuse. Abuse of power. As of yesterday, there were 55 lawsuits under consideration by the federal courts across our nation as a result of Elon Musk's and President Trump's unlawful acts. Many of those lawsuits have already been sustained by the federal district courts and orders have been rendered to undo those unlawful acts. But this is just the beginning, and Congress has an important role to play. And I, for one, look forward to that opportunity. This is a moment of great consequence for our country and for our democracy, and I remain grateful to the good people of the 8th Congressional District of Massachusetts who sent me here. Mr. Hetler-Gaudette, again, happy to join you on some of your efforts. Pogo has worked very closely with our IG community. Is that right? The Inspector Generals?
Yeah, that's correct, Congressman.
I know your work is very much similar to what we ask our Inspectors Generals to undertake. I want to ask you, what do you think? So in the most recent report from the Inspector Generals, and this is the Council of the Inspector Generals, a nonpartisan group on integrity and efficiency in government, they identified more than $93 billion in potential savings. So the first thing that President Trump did coming into office was to fire 17 agency inspectors general. What can you tell us from Pogo's standpoint? What does that do to our ability to identify and root out waste, fraud, and abuse?
Thank you, Congressman. I would say, to put it simply, it completely undermines our ability to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. Inspector General exists for essentially one purpose, and they were originally created in the immediate aftermath of Watergate. And I think you all probably do not need me to give you a history lesson at all on what happened in the Watergate era. There's a reason they were created at that time, because there was a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse happening, and there were not cops on the beat that were internal, that were independent, that were situated in agencies to be able to find these things and expose them and do something about them. That's what Inspector General exists to do. So it's completely anathema to, I'd say anathema to any stated mission to find cost saving and to root out waste, fraud, and abuse, to fire Inspector General and to undermine them. It makes no sense. Those two things do not add up.
Thank you very much. The firings that occurred on the when President Trump came to office included the Special Inspector General for Afghan Reconstruction, Mr. Sopko. I actually did over 20 trips to Afghanistan working with him. He actually uncovered $4 billion in savings in rooting out American taxpayer waste being conducted in Afghanistan. The IG at the Department of Defense, the agency.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield back. Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank you.
that. Thank you.
I now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Cloud.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For far too long, DC politicians have gotten away with measuring their personal value and worth by how much of other people's money they give away. And for far too long, they self-righteously have opined that the spending was for altruistic purposes given out of care and compassion. For far too long, they've been more concerned with looking like they cared than having enough care and concern to actually do the due diligence to ensure that the tax dollars were being used wisely and effectively. And for far too long, those of us who've worked to uncover waste, fraud, and abuse have had to deal with what amounts to an unconstitutional fourth branch of permanent bureaucracy that has too often worked to ignore, obfuscate, delay, and frustrate our efforts to bring transparency and oversight. Over the last few weeks, the DOGE effort has begun to uncover not only how massive the waste, fraud, and abuse is, but also the extent at which DC politicians and too many obstinate bureaucrats have coordinated to create what is essentially the largest money laundering scheme in history. And while Americans have been working to make ends meet, they have been using taxpayer dollars to fund unnecessary, egregious, and even evil things here at home and around the world. Thankfully, in DOGE, we have a president bringing the leadership needed and a focused effort, along with the talent, technology, tools, and transparency to this waste, fraud, and abuse. And to those who would stand opposed to this effort, I would just point out, while it's understandable to find waste, fraud, and abuse that has grown and metastasized in this government even over decades, certainly accelerated over the last few years, to continue to protect it is corruption. I want to thank the chair for beginning this war on waste on this side of Pennsylvania Avenue and bringing together this committee. This effort is so important as we work to relieve the Americans, people of this burden of waste, fraud, and abuse. Mr. Talco, you mentioned in your written statement and talked about it in your statement at the beginning that this waste, fraud, and abuse is a national security threat. And certainly one of the challenges facing us, it is a national security threat, is our fiscal situation. And so we have got to find ways to find savings to the American people in order to bring confidence to the bond markets, to put our country on a fiscal footing, and to reverse the curse, so to speak, that we are placing on our children and our grandchildren. You mentioned a couple threats, though. You mentioned internal threats. You said that these cases involve government employees, individuals entrusted with administering benefits who, instead of using their positions to approve fraudulent claims, override security controls, or even sell sensitive claimant information for profit. Now, this is not every federal employee for sure, but within the context of people who are trying to give their best effort, we have an internal threat. But you also mentioned transnational fraud rings, terrorist organizations, nation states, North Korea, nuclear weapons programs funded by our tax dollars, China, Nigeria, Iran, Romania, Russia, not our friends necessarily that are being funded by taxpayer dollars. Could you give us some examples of how this is happening?
Yeah. So when you think about what happened during the pandemic, $1 trillion was stolen. 70% of that money went overseas. And I can give you some examples. In a Western state, they had more people applying for unemployment insurance benefits than they had individuals over 18. The people that were stealing the money from Romania were using it to facilitate other fraud schemes that include fentanyl, that include doing things to impact our democracy. On the insider threat, right, the first thing you have to say, and my dad was a public servant, is 99% of people that work in the public sector are honest, hardworking individuals. But there are some, and what you need is data and technology to root that out. There were examples during the pandemic. There were some examples even of last week where people got into the Medicaid system in a Western state and stole $50 million in less than 4 months. So you have to have these controls in place, right? These aren't individuals stealing, Mr. Cloud. These are organized criminal groups, both domestic and transnational.
As you mentioned, taxpayers are being forced to fund the demise of our own country. Mr. Winston, I wanted to ask you, because there's a lot of talk about reconciliation right now. You mentioned Medicaid and what could be done to bring a pretty substantial amount of savings. And this is without affecting those who truly need Medicaid and for what the purpose of the program was extended for. Now,
The gentleman's time has expired.
hopefully,
Does the witness want to answer the question?
No, only to
quickly.
say that, yes, there's a tremendous amount of savings that can be found from the streamlining rule, but also work requirements in the program is another big area that can be done in reconciliation. And could save a significant amount as well, $241 billion in federal spending over 10 years.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. I now recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Garcia.
Well, thank you. Thank you to all of our witnesses for being here. And I want to just start off by making something clear. I think we're all here to fight against the lies, the corruptions, and the attacks on our social safety net. Now, we should in no way be cooperating with House Republicans who want to shut down the Department of Education and destroy Medicare and Medicaid. And we should not stand by as the richest man on the planet gives himself and his companies huge tax cuts while the American people get absolutely nothing. Now, I find it ironic, of course, that our chairwoman, Congresswoman Green, is in charge of running this committee. Now, in the last Congress, Chairwoman Green literally showed a dick pic in our oversight congressional hearing. So I thought I'd bring one as well. Now, this, of course, we know is President Elon Musk. He's also the world's richest man. He was the biggest political donor in the last election. He has billions of dollars in conflicts of interest. And we know that he is leading a power grab, also abided by and encouraged by Donald Trump and, of course, the chairwoman, Congresswoman Green. But I also want to run through what DOGE actually is going to do. It's a demolition plan that's going to run through our government. DOGE is trying to abolish the Department of Education. That means opportunities denied to kids. It means you're ripping away opportunities for children with disabilities who are dependent on this money. You're also halting medical research, which is also critical, which we have to also stop. The idea that we're going to eliminate or destroy the Department of National Institutes of Health, NIH, is crazy. Let's talk about the Department of Labor. We're talking about protections for working people across this country, where people can actually complain about abuses their companies are making against them and their coworkers. Workers are now going to be in danger. Let's also talk about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, another huge issue for us. Think about the scammers and fraudsters that will be empowered across this country because Elon Musk wants, essentially, these companies have more power over consumers and over people across this country. Look at the Centers for Disease and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. That is actually what's being discussed partly today. Healthcare, we're talking about being denied to millions of poor people, working class people across this country. And now, of course, they're on to their largest target, the U.S. Social Security Administration. We're talking about the destruction of the actual social safety net in this country. We know that 1 in 5 Americans collect Social Security, seniors, disabled people. This entire plan is about hurting the American social safety net and destroying our institutions. And it's important that we actually call out what is happening at this subcommittee. This is not about working with the richest man on the planet. This is actually about empowering. This committee wants to empower the richest person in the world to hurt people so they can take all of this money that they so-called want to save and then give it to themselves, their companies, and their billionaire friends. That is the attack that is happening in this committee and across this country, and it's important that we call it out. We also know, of course, that Elon Musk is sending his unqualified DOGE staff to carry out this agenda across all these agencies. And in some cases, actually teenage staffers. No accountability, no experience, and problematic records. They're trying to rob you, and they're probably a minor. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields, and I now recognize the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Timmons, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I find it sad that my colleagues across the aisle can't take this seriously. We have $36 trillion in debt. We run an annual almost $2 trillion deficit. When I got elected 6 years ago, we had $21 trillion in debt. So in 6 years, we've added over $15 trillion to the debt. And guess what? President Trump ran on fixing this problem. President Trump told the American people he would right the ship financially. And he said during the campaign that Elon Musk was going to be the person to lead this charge. The man that has turned business after business around. He's the richest man on the planet because he succeeds at his endeavors. And that's why President Trump has appointed him the head of this effort. This is a very serious problem. And it's incredibly hypocritical that my colleagues across the aisle are complaining about this because Joe Biden signed his name and wanted the American people to believe that he had the ability to forgive $250 billion with a signature. Guess what? Supreme Court ruled he did not. That's our system of checks and balances. The president, Biden, he clearly was experiencing cognitive decline. He didn't even have the ability to be charged with a crime as determined by his own Department of Justice. But he signs his name and he thinks it gives $250 billion away, redistributes taxpayer dollars. It's just crazy that we can't come together to address the greatest national security threat facing this country, our debt. Now to the task at hand, Medicaid fraud. Mr. Talcove, if we implement enhanced identity verification and enhanced income verification, what will happen? How much money will we save?
You'll save hundreds of billions of dollars. Identity verification, elimination of self-certification, and monitoring beneficiaries will prevent these transnational criminal groups from accessing those systems at scale so legitimate people who need the benefits can get them in a timely fashion.
So we're going to get actual benefits to people, to American citizens that are in need faster, because if you do it electronically through web-based, like they did in Missouri, where the pilot program saved almost 20% of Medicaid dollars. So all we have to do is adopt what has already been proven in Missouri, and we'll save 20%. To the people out there listening, we spend almost $900 billion every year on Medicaid. And if 20% of that is saved, that's almost $200 billion. We got a $1.8 trillion annual deficit. We just knocked off $200 billion. Let's keep this train going. The fact that the Democrats are filing lawsuit after lawsuit to impede the efforts of President Trump to right our fiscal ship is unforgivable. It's unforgivable. Mr. Talcove, you talked about pandemic fraud. I have a bill that would cause the IRS to share data with the Small Business Administration and the FBI and the Department of Justice that would show that you were ineligible for PPP loans and you got them. So I think that would save probably $100 billion. Do you think that we should go back and take money away from people that fraudulently got COVID money?
During the pandemic, the PPP program was a virtual buffet for fraudsters. And it was because of that 1974 Privacy Act, where data sharing and matching is virtually impossible. Congress needs to change that.
But we can do it retroactively. We can do it retroactively. We can find the people that stole this money, hold them accountable, probably get some of the money back. So I already have that bill filed. That bill, I think, would probably get $100 billion. So now we got enhanced identity verification, enhanced income verification that has been proven in Missouri. It does work. So I'm working on that bill. We're going to drop it soon. That's $200 billion. There's a competition in Congress. I think we should have a competition on this committee. I got $300 billion in savings proposed. We got to all pull our weight because we have such a massive problem right now. But I would just ask my colleagues across the aisle to get out of the way if you don't want to help. If you don't want to help right the fiscal ship in this country, get out of the way. Stop filing lawsuit after lawsuit. We do not have the financial ability to continue down this path. And we're going to save this country with or without you. You can kick and scream all the way, or you can get out of the way. I prefer the former. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The gentleman yields. I now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Kassar.
This subcommittee is supposedly about looking into waste, fraud, and abuse. So I'd like to start talking about independent inspector generals who are supposed to be looking into waste, fraud, and abuse. Mr. Talcove, do you know how many inspector generals at agencies that were investigating Elon Musk's companies have been fired by the Trump-Musk administration?
No.
It is 5. Ms. Royal, the Inspector General at the Department of Labor had 17 open investigations into Tesla and SpaceX. Do you know what the Trump-Musk administration did to that Inspector General?
No.
They fired him. And I think y'all know. Mr. Whitson, the Inspector General at the Department of Transportation was investigating Tesla. Do you know what the Trump-Musk administration did to that Inspector General?
No.
They were fired. The Department of Defense's Inspector General was looking into SpaceX. Mr. Hedler, do you know what the Trump-Musk administration did to that Inspector General?
I believe he was fired.
Thank you. I think everybody on the panel knows what the answer to these questions were. The U.S. Department of Agriculture Inspector General was investigating Musk's Neuralink. Mr. Talcove, now I'll ask you again under oath, do you know what Mr. Trump did to that Inspector General that was looking into one of Musk's companies?
No.
He was fired. The Inspector General at the EPA was repeatedly taking on Tesla. Mr. Hedler, since it seems that you're answering the questions that everyone knows the answer to, do you know what the Trump-Musk administration did to that Inspector General?
I believe he was also fired.
Also fired. At least 5 Inspector Generals that were looking into Elon Musk's companies were fired by the Trump-Musk administration. These Inspector Generals, who are independent, protected by law, they are the people that find the waste, fraud, and abuse and found many of the cases of waste, fraud, and abuse that have been brought up today, fired because they were looking into Elon Musk. At the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, which is supposed to protect workers from getting their unions busted by folks like Elon Musk, made functionally broken by the so-called Department of Government Efficiency that really is the Department of Government Efficiency for Elon Musk, not for you. They are trying to shut down the Department of Education, the Department of Labor. You know what Elon Musk doesn't seem to be looking into? His own contracts. Again, I'll ask you, Mr. Talcove, do you know how much money a day Mr. Musk will receive from the federal government for his contracts?
No.
The answer is $8 million a day. Just last year, Elon Musk was promised $3 billion from close to 100 contracts with the federal government. Ms. Royal, do you know how much the average person in this country who survives on Social Security, one of our seniors who's worked their entire life, about how much they have to survive on a day?
I do not.
$65 a day. We're not looking into Elon Musk's $8 million a day. This subcommittee, chaired by Marjorie Taylor Greene and the House Republicans, is looking into your grandmother's $65 a day. Let me be clear. I think we would all support taxpayer savings, look into money we might needlessly send to billionaires and big corporations, find taxpayer savings, and send it back to your hardworking family. But instead, what House Republicans and the Trump-Musk administration want to do is they want to look into your kids' lunch money, your kids' teacher's salary, into your grandparents' Social Security. They want to take that money and give it out in billionaire tax cuts. And they are talking about that in committee tomorrow, in budget committee tomorrow. They just released their plan. So let me be clear. When Republicans talk about government efficiency in this Congress, they're not looking into billionaires who don't pay their taxes. They're not looking into billionaires who get rich off of government contracts. They're not looking into Elon Musk firing watchdogs who are supposed to keep him accountable. They're looking at cutting your public schools. They're going straight for your Social Security. They're coming straight for cancer research. They're coming straight for the Department of Education. They're not looking at big tech. They're not looking at big pharma because those people fund their campaigns. If this committee were serious about rooting out waste from our federal government, then today's whole hearing would be about how Musk and Donald Trump are firing the independent watchdogs who've done this work for decades. Instead, my Republican colleagues' actual goal on this committee is to distract from Trump and from Musk's corrupt war on accountability. This will not be a subcommittee dedicated to making government efficient for everyday people. It's about helping Elon Musk and Donald Trump be as efficient as possible in robbing our government and handing out our government services to the rich. So this seems that this subcommittee is just
The gentleman's
like the
time is
agency it's named
expired.
after,
The gentleman's
sham.
time has expired.
a total sham.
The American people are $36 trillion in debt. It certainly seems reasonable that someone has been fired. I now recognize the gentleman from Tennessee.
You're going to put us
Mr.
further in debt
Burchett,
with your billionaire
You're
tax
not
cuts.
recognized, Mr. Burchett. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Lady. The gravy train for a lot of these folks, it's been on biscuit wheels and it's about to run off the dadgum tracks, and it's about time. Could you imagine standing up here and defending waste, fraud, and abuse? But I think that's what we're seeing. When people squeal and don't ask questions, I think it shows the American public what the heck's going on. And that little gravy train is getting ready to run out. The spigot is getting ready to be turned off. Mr. Talcove, that's correct how you say your name, brother?
Yes, sir.
All right. How can the federal government improve identity verification for these entitlement programs?
Yeah, it's doing what the private sector does every single day, whether you use your bank, you go to Amazon, using those tools and moving away from some of the dated compliance standards that the federal government uses. NIST IAL 863, 2017, before there was anything called deepfakes and generative AI tools.
I was informed that PayPal has never been, they've never been able to crack into that and steal people's vital information. Are they using those systems that you would be favorable towards that government seems to be shying away from?
Yes, sir.
And describe that, how that works.
They're systems that are based on encryption. They use technology and they use data to validate you are who you say you are. The people that are stealing right now, I believe a lot of them are actually ghosts from China, Russia, Nigeria, and Romania.
I read a report today that North Korea was involved in this, in some of that as well.
They are.
And those people are our enemies. Again, they'll hate us for free. We don't have to give them taxpayer money. And are there loopholes that can be closed to avoid these improper payments? And I wish you'd describe those to me.
The biggest, most important thing, particularly in the benefit program space, is the use of self-certification. As Mr. Timmons noted, the state of Missouri is using a solution called Steady IQ to validate wages and wealth. You cannot allow individuals to provide the information based upon what they think. It has to be based on what you know, and that will stop the ghosts from using people's identities to steal money from U.S. taxpayers.
How much money do you calculate is wasted due to waste, fraud, and abuse in the entitlement programs each year?
Yeah, my number right now between federal, state, and local government is you can save $1 trillion a year by simply putting in front-end identity verification, eliminating self-certification, and monitoring the back end of the programs that are providing the benefits. Those three things.
You said you could eliminate that, but there are others. You feel like some more low-hanging fruit?
I would start with those three things because they're simple. That'll take that 20% fraud rate that you're seeing in the public sector down below 5%.
Chair Lady, I would suggest that we adopt Mr. Timmons' legislation and get that out of the committee as fast as possible. What actions also could Congress take to fix these problems quickly?
Yeah, I think the first thing is updating and redoing the 1974 Privacy Act. That is virtually impossible to do data matching. It's very difficult to have data shared. And when you look back at the pandemic, data sharing and data matching would have stopped probably 50% of the $1 trillion that was stolen from taxpayers.
Didn't y'all like to add anything to that?
Congressman, I would just add that rather than accepting self-attestation, that states should have to be required to actually verify people's identities. And here's the key part: before they get enrolled, they shouldn't get enrolled and then eventually come down later on down the road.
It's amazing to me. I have a doctor's appointment back in Knoxville, and the verification process is very extensive. It's more so than the federal government requires for any of this. What type of computer systems are these agencies using, and do they need updating?
They're using very dated technology, but they're also burdened. I look at the USDA, 6.2 million words in a 10,000-page document that shows how to implement the rules of the program. Nobody can figure that out. So one of the things that I think has to happen is the simplification of these processes and systems, and then just use the technology that we use every day in the private sector.
Okay. Thank y'all so much for being here.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you, Chair Lady.
I now recognize the gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. Crockett, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Talcove, I'm just going to go ahead and pick up where you left off really quickly. Just to be clear, the upgrades that you're talking about as it relates to our data processes, these aren't things that would be free, are they? They would. cost some kind of money. Not looking for a number, but they will cost, correct?
Some are free and some would cost money.
Okay. All right. So I just want to leave it there because we've had a number of these hearings. So I do want to be clear, before the Trump administration came in, this committee did exist in the form of the Oversight Committee, and our task is to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. In that vein, we had a number of hearings, at least last term. I can't speak for any other term as I'm only in my sophomore term. And we dealt with improper payments. And interestingly enough, our chairwoman, who is so passionate about this today, she missed every single one of those improper payment hearings. But just to be clear, I was there. So I don't want anyone to believe that Democrats just come to work and don't plan to do work. In fact, I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is that the Republicans believe our job is, because right now they have relinquished their constitutional duties over to an unelected bureaucrat, someone who no one went out to vote for. And absolutely, he is occupying the Oval Office, as we saw yesterday. And that is a first for me, to see someone occupying the Oval Office who's never actually been elected to the Oval Office and actually answering more questions than the person that allegedly got elected.
Child,
But
why her
for
wigs
whatever
always
reason,
so
this is the
dry?
first time we're
Like,
having
what's
a Doge
going on?
subcommittee hearing, and that
Girl,
guy's
you
not
can't get
here.
no wig
Instead, we have
shade?
y'all. So I do want to thank you for coming.
It make
But I
no
will say
sense.
this: it's also interesting to me that in the first few days of Doge existing, we know that they are trying to get rid of the Department of Education, USAID, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They're laying off FAA workers. They are going after the FDA, the CDC, the HHS, the FBI agents, and they're talking about getting rid of FEMA. And they brought y'all in. And I am going to say that I actually was shocked that there was only one person that seemed like he was an overt Trumper as you laid out your opening remarks, because I anticipated that at least one of y'all would say,
This is not cute.
yes, what Elon
This is
is
not
doing
cute
is
at all,
exactly
ma'am.
what we would
It's not
prescribe. But
cute.
instead, I will applaud you because you actually were focused. You talked about what the American people are looking for us to do. We've actually consistently on
She
this side of
always
the
mad,
aisle
Bill. She
promoted
always
this
mad.
idea of making investments into
And
technology
she do all she
so that
can
we
to
can
keep
do
that
things such as say,
angry
look at the
black
Department of
woman
Defense. The
stereotype
Department of
going.
Defense that takes up approximately 50% of our discretionary income or our discretionary spending. Approximately 50% goes to Department of Defense. Department of Defense has not been able to pass an audit in the last 6 audits, and we're not talking about pennies. I understand that we want everything to be perfect, and if we could get all waste, fraud, and abuse out, that would be fantastic. But let me talk about the big numbers. The big numbers are on that side. When we look at, say, our entire workforce, our federal workforce, as we're trying to
Okay, so we have
somehow
not
fire
passed
all of
the
them,
last, I think it's the
they don't
last
even
7.
make
She's
up a
talking about
total
6.
of
I think it's the last
5%.
7.
It's even less than that
Oh, that
when we
ain't
look
Trump
at our
fault.
budget. But let's talk about defense. That just happens to be the same side
Like,
of the
all
ledger
of that's not his
that
fault. So what
Mr.
we talking
Musk
about?
gets the vast majority of his money from. In fact, at the same time that they were unlawfully, and we will stay in court because on this side, we believe in law and order. We believe in, I mean, a number of us are actually lawyers, but nevertheless, we understand the Constitution. We believe in that as well. And so there's things such as, impoundment, right? Because as Mr. Whitson said, he said, we need to return the power of the purse to Congress. It never left. According to the Constitution, that's where it's at. Now, I know that people are confused right now because for whatever reason, we had a guy that went in, and you talk about people invading our data. Listen, people said that they were upset about TikTok, but I'm upset about the guy that runs Twitter, who for sure is doing nefarious things, because I don't understand, if you are trying to conduct audits and figure out where the waste, fraud, and abuse is, I don't know why you would go to some tech guy. In fact, it was only techies that were sitting there at inauguration. We didn't have auditors. I would welcome auditors to come in and do forensic audits. In fact, he sat there in the Oval Office yesterday and he admitted that he was lying, and he was using his propaganda machine to do it when he said that we sent millions of dollars to Gaza for condoms. That was a lie. So let me tell you something.
The
We were
gentlelady's
duly
time
elected,
has expired.
and it is time for
The
us to
gentlelady's
do our
time has
jobs
expired.
and rein in this rogue actor known
The
as
gentlelady's
Elon
time
Musk.
has expired. I now recognize the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Burleson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to speak frankly at first to the American people. We're nearing $37 trillion in national debt. What does that mean? That means that each and every U.S. taxpayer owes over $323,000. Okay, what does that mean? That means when the EPIC, which is the Economic Policy Innovation Center, says we have 18 trillion left. That's it, 18 trillion left to take out, and we're spending $2 trillion in debt every year. Folks, we're at the precipice of a debt, like a debt cycle. We are literally at a point in which the dollar will be worth nothing. What does that mean? And we know Social Security goes bankrupt in 8 years, right? Medicare goes bankrupt in 10 years. And then 15 years from now, the dollar is completely devalued and worth nothing. So what does that mean? That means your pension, the money in your banks, your savings is nothing. It's worthless. So what are we doing? We're trying to save this country. We're trying to save your pensions. We're trying to save your bank accounts. We're trying to save this country for the next generation. And it would be nice if we had help. But instead, we have people that are fighting us on this. And, I think that I would hate to be in the Democratic Party right now because you're in a really bad bind. You're having to defend all of this crazy spending, all of this crazy waste. So how do you do it? You do ad hominem attacks. You attack the messenger. Oh, Elon Musk, right? He's rich. He must be evil, right? That's the attacks. Really, you can't do any better than that, right? Let's talk on the policy. Help us. We're trying to save this country. This is and Elon Musk, who's making no money doing this, is trying to save this country. Why? Because he has invested in the United States of America more than anybody, right? So I think that we should embrace it. In fact, not a single company, governor of any state would ever turn down Elon Musk and his team of Doge from coming in and providing free services to right the course and financially in any state or organization. It's ridiculous that we would demonize someone that loves this country so much. Mr. Whitman, the formation of agencies via the executive action is not new, right? The formation of Doge is not new. Can are you familiar with any other previous presidencies where they've formed organizations like Doge via executive action?
Yeah, so actually the agency that Doge is occupying is one that was created in a previous administration. So it is something that happens routinely. But I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, there's been the Office of Budget Management was created, Environmental Protection Agency was created, the U.S. Digital Service, which is now Doge, was created all by executive order, right?
And actually one other I'd add is USAID was originally created through an executive order by President Kennedy and then later formalized.
And then, Madam Chair, I have a video I would like to end with that just, let's review, if we could cue that, to remind, and I want to remind my Democratic friends, at a point in which you once had the majority of the American people on your side, this is what your party believed in.
This report tells us how to cut waste, cut red tape, streamline the bureaucracy, change procurement rules, change the personnel rules, and create a government that works better and costs less.
I've read it, and where it says the president should, the president will.
Among the 800 recommendations, eliminating 12% of the federal workforce, merging some government agencies like the FBI, the DEA, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, closing hundreds of government offices outside Washington.
From the day I took office, one of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending. We thought that it was entirely appropriate for our governments and our agencies to try to root out waste, large and small, in a systematic way. It means cutting some programs that I think are worthy, but we may not be able to afford right now. A lot of the action is in Congress and legislative, but in the meantime, we don't need to wait for Congress in order to do something about wasteful spending that's out there. We haven't seen as much action out of Congress as we'd like, and that's why we launched on our own initiative the campaign to cut waste. And we're going to keep on finding every possible way that we can do that, even if Congress is not acting. There you go.
I think it speaks for itself. My time has expired.
The gentleman's time has expired. Thank you. I now yield to the gentlewoman from the District of Columbia, Ms. Norton, for 5 minutes.
Thank you.
What is the whole point?
Our Republican colleagues and the Trump administration continue to demonize our friends and neighbors who work for the federal government and swear an oath to protect the Constitution and serve the public. Thousands of civilian federal employees have given their lives in the line of duty for their country. The administration seems intent on dismantling much of the federal government in violation of the Constitution, statutes, and regulations. And our Republican colleagues are letting them do it. They want to gut the nonpartisan civil service and to convert a significant portion of the remaining civil service into political appointees, depriving the federal government of employees' expertise and experience.
Child, they don't have no expertise. That's the whole problem.
That the
they had
government
expertise when
provides
being in
to
this
all
situation.
Americans. Mr. Hedler-Garlett, the administration is attempting to cause a mass exodus from our federal workforce. Will this increase or decrease waste, fraud, and abuse?
Thank you, Delegate Norton. I think it's pretty clear that chaos is not the friend of efficiency. If you undermine the very functionality of the government, you're not going to make it more efficient. You're going to make it worse. And it's going to cost even more money to recoup or to fix things that go wrong in the interim. So again, I mentioned earlier that if you care about waste, fraud, and abuse, hiring Inspector General doesn't add up. I think if you care about government being more efficient, I think intentionally creating chaos is the opposite of that.
Well, Mr. Hedler-Garlett, do federal employees operate without oversight or rules and regulations?
No, absolutely not. They are governed by plenty of rules and regulations. And when there are independent Inspector General at the agency they're supposed to be at, they also have a cop on the beat making sure that they do so.
I want to highlight some stories demonstrating exactly the kinds of federal workers the administration is trying to force out. How about Chris Mark at the Department of Labor, whose pioneering work on mine safety has reduced minor safety deaths from roof collapses.
Miss Lady,
today,
come on. Before you start trying to checkmate people, gonna be able to read your paperwork.
Be able to read your paperwork.
Come on.
Pioneered
hey, E-Way Slick, how you doing? Welcome.
Criminal cyber security currency transactions that led to the rescue.
Because what they got to do? Everybody in that's working in the federal government ain't got these issues. What is
hundreds
happening?
Of millions of child abuse videos and 370
Lord have mercy. What that got to do with this?
Arrests. This work also prevented funding from going to terrorist groups, or Ronald E. Walters, who manages the 155 national cemeteries around the country and tends to the resting places of almost 4 million veterans. These are just a few of the federal workers who serve Americans every day. The workers are wildland firefighters, border guards, doctors, nurses, food inspectors, air traffic
Man, when all them become federal employees?
and law enforcement.
It's absolutely possible to be a doctor or a nurse or be in law enforcement and not work for the federal government. We're going to try this again.
More in the private sector. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentlelady yields. I now yield to the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Jack.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I want to also thank you for convening this hearing. I think it's incredibly important, and I want to thank our witnesses for appearing before us today. Like another member of this committee, I too was once an employee of the Executive Office of the President. I worked in President Trump's White House from the very first to very last day of his first term, and I saw firsthand how
Exactly,
entrenched and
we
resistant
hear
the
exactly.
federal bureaucracy was to his agenda. So it's no surprise that today a few of my Democrat colleagues have continued that trend by using their time to bash Elon Musk instead of discussing
Wow.
ways to work together to advance a bipartisan cornerstone of President Trump's agenda, the mission to finally eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. And I just took a rudimentary count of the Dems' testimony, or rather comments today, and I've got 27 mentions of Elon Musk and 3 mentions of waste. And I don't know if that's, in fact, the right count. Encourage anybody to fact check me, but I think it illuminates and illustrates one of the problems that we're facing, which is a lack of bipartisan effort to address these critical things that, waste, fraud, and abuse is something that should be bipartisan. The chair noted that in her opening remarks. Now, Madam Chair, you know how much I enjoy studying public opinion. So with your approval, I'd like to enter into the record the CBS News poll from this past weekend conducted February 5th to 7th, 2025. And I'd also like to illuminate 2 findings. First, 70% of Americans, Democrats and Republicans included, believe President Trump is already doing the job that he was elected to, which is interesting because I have an article here from CNN from September 2024 that notes Trump says Elon Musk has agreed to lead proposed government efficiency commission as ex-president unveils new economic plans. So he is doing exactly what he said he would do by empowering his administration to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here today. I'd also like to note one interesting statistic from that. 62% of Americans want Democrats in Congress to work with us to advance the priorities that President Trump was elected to govern on. So I think those are 2 stats that I hope everyone pays attention to. But to ask questions of our witnesses, I'd first like to start with Mr. Talcove. One of the things that I've found very interesting from your opening testimony is you talked, and I think you engaged with Mr. Burchett on the 1974 Privacy Act. And I had some interesting folks visit my office yesterday who noted that 1/3 of all prior authorizations are still done manually by phone, fax, or direct post mail. First off, would love your comments on that. And I'd also like for you to expound upon some of the solutions that we can deliver to this Congress in modernizing that 1974 Privacy Act.
Yeah, these aren't people problems. These are technology problems. You can't process the number of individuals that are accessing our systems person by person. It just takes too much time. So by updating the 1974 Privacy Act and allowing for digital matching, you would have very quickly realized that a large portion of the PPP loan funds were going to the wrong person. You would have been quickly able to match. And I think the number was 20% were on the do not pay list. You can't expect people to do what a machine, and especially AI, can do today.
Fair enough. Thank you very much for that. And if I can also ask Mr. Whitson, I think we share a common interest, which is to move departments and agencies outside of Washington, D.C. It's something that I campaigned on, something that I helped President Trump effectuate in his first administration. And I have to imagine that if we have departments and agencies outside of D.C., if we've got a workforce that's more reflective of the balance that America is, we at the same time too could potentially root out some of this waste, fraud, and abuse by enabling other Americans, other citizens of our country to help advance some of these issues. So would love your commentary on that before my time expires.
No, I think you're exactly right, Congressman Jack. And so I think, you'd save a lot of taxpayer money. So building a headquarters in downtown DC versus Huntsville, Alabama, you're going to be able to save a lot of money. Number 2, you're actually going to make life better for the employees as well. So that's a point that's also missed a lot, but commuting into DC versus being able to go somewhere else where it's a better cost of living and things like that might be better for the folks. And then lastly, these areas where you set up a headquarters are going to be populated by people that live in the area to fill the rank and file of staff positions. And so if you plant these federal agency headquarters in the heart of any area that's overwhelmingly one party or the other, then you're going to naturally get that sway versus something that's more representative of the people as a whole.
Well, thank you very much, our witnesses. Mindful of my time, I want to finish before my time expires. I yield back to our chairwoman, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Thank you.
And Chairwoman, I would like to ask for unanimous consent to enter something into the record.
So what is it?
It is a report from the Congressional Research Service, nonpartisan CRS, that lays out the rules and the law for firing inspectors general, which of course look into waste, fraud, and abuse. And then
Without
that rule-
objection.
Thank you. And that rule requires for the law to be followed, for Congress to be notified with 30 days and a reason for firing inspectors general to give Congress a chance to overrule that. And that's the law. So thank you for entering that into the record.
Madam Chair.
Without objection, the materials Mr. Jack cited are also submitted for the record. I now recognize.
Apologies. While we're on it, I'd also like to ask for unanimous consent to submit for the record 2 items. One is a statement from the AFL-CIO, Department of People who work for a living with views on working people to make the government work. And the second is a statement from the Center for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington on ways to combat waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government.
Without objection, so ordered. I now recognize the gentlelady from New Mexico and ranking member Ms. Stansbury for 5 minutes.
All right. Well, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. And thank you once again to all of our witnesses for being here to testify. Thank you to my colleagues. We are going to have so much fun in this committee, this Congress. I actually appreciate the video that was shown just a few moments
She
ago.
said we're going to have
when
fun.
I worked at the Office of Management and Budget. I actually worked on the waste EO
Okay,
that was
ma'am.
referenced
Come
that
on.
President Obama
Come on.
signed. But there is one fundamental difference between the presidents and vice presidents that were shown on that video and what's happening today. And that is that they followed the law. So my colleagues across the aisle who are asking us to get out of the way and stop trying to block things in the courts, let me tell you, we do not work for an unelected billionaire like apparently this guy does. We work for the American people. And so if an unelected, unvetted individual private citizen is hacking our government systems, breaking the law, firing federal employees, dismantling statutorily created agencies, withholding funds, we are going to fight you in the courts. And I'm actually really sad that my dear
Ma'am,
friend, Mr.
get to the
Burchett
point.
left,
What you
because I want to
finna
talk
do?
about that gravy train on biscuit wheels that he just talked about, because that gravy train is not the federal workforce. It's the billionaires that are trying to
Gotcha.
hack
You are-
that
you are
system
tripping.
right now, and which unfortunately my colleagues right now are working on a reconciliation deal to cut Medicaid, to cut Medicare, and use that money to give to tax breaks to their billionaire buddies. That is the gravy train that is actually going on here. But because this is the Oversight Committee, let's do a little bit of oversight. For the last several weeks, I've been talking to Treasury and OMB officials to try to get to the bottom of why Elon Musk and his team are trying to hack the Treasury payment system, because this is a completely
He already done told you what he want.
It
He
really
already
just
told you
pays
what he
the
want to
bills
know.
of the
He
federal
already done
government.
told y'all what he want
So
to know.
why
Why
are
we
they
acting like this is
so
new
eager
information?
to hack this system? And I have to say that over the
Yeah,
last
Lauren,
several weeks,
she
we
did.
have
This is not
literally
comedy hour,
received
though.
thousands of calls in every single congressional
This ain't
office.
comedy
In fact,
hour.
we know that our friends across the aisle are also receiving these calls because this system pays the bills of the U.S. government. It pays our soldiers. It pays for the work that we do overseas. It pays your Social Security benefits. It pays your tax refunds. So why is Elon Musk and his hackers trying to access that system? And why did a senior civil servant who had overseen this system for over 30 years get asked to stand down after a 25-year-old intern working for Elon Musk tried to get access to the code for that system? Now, thankfully, they were shut down in the court system, but Musk has installed, with the president's blessing, one of his Silicon Valley buddies, who I want to point out, in which the media has not paid a lot of attention to, is the CEO of a private IT company, including Citrix, that has millions of dollars in IT contracts with the federal government. And not only is he still operating as the installed Doge person at Treasury, he's actively still the CEO of this private company. How is that even legal? Is it legal? I don't think it's legal.
Well, tell us how
Because
it's
the
not
federal
legal.
court is trying to
Tell
shut
us how
this
it's not
down.
legal, ma'am. That's how.
We
Let us
also
know. Put us
that
on.
that 25-year-old software engineer, in violation of the court order, was actually given access to modify the code. So what is going on here?
And why is this such a threat to the American people? Why are thousands of people calling us? It's because of the size and the significance of these payments, because it is an invasion of the privacy and security of the American people, because it could threaten our ability as a country and if there was a default in the debt ceiling, and because it contains highly classified information that our foreign adversaries are trying to cyber attack us regularly for. So why is a private citizen being given access to this system? We know they're trying to shut down payments. They're trying to shut down agencies. What's next? Are they going to shut down your Social Security payments? We don't
Girl,
know.
why you doing that? The man already said that he's not going to do that. He already said he's not here for that.
Oversight, and Elon Musk will not come in front of this committee. And in fact, the Treasury folks are saying this is the biggest insider threat they've ever seen in the history of the agency. So we are sounding
question
the
and answer
alarm. And no
session
matter
yesterday,
how
y'all.
many
I'm
executive
gonna stream
orders
that too
that
at some
Donald Trump
point.
signs, or how many tweets
y'all,
that
somebody
VP
here telling
sends,
lies.
you cannot
Somebody here
rewrite
telling
the
lies.
Constitution, and we are going to hold you to account. I yield back.
The gentlelady yields, and I now recognize
Somebody up in here
I have
telling
three
lies.
documents I want to submit for the record. The
What are
first document is the Constitution, Article 2. I would like to submit that for the record. That clearly spells out the president's authority. I would also like to submit for the record 5 U.S. Code 3161, the employment compensation of employees, which clearly spells out his authority to create Doge. And then I want to submit for the record the executive order that Trump issued on January 20th of 2025, establishing Doge officially.
Without objection, so ordered. I now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gill, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for hosting this committee. If we've learned anything so far, it's that Republicans want to cut waste, fraud, and abuse from our federal government and save taxpayer dollars, and Democrats want to grandstand and play politics. We can see right now, even of the 6 Democrats on this committee, only 1 can even be bothered to stay for the duration of this hearing. All we've heard about for most of this hearing from the other side of the aisle is Elon Musk, Elon Musk, Elon Musk, unelected bureaucrats. And I'd like to ask if Democrats really care about unelected bureaucrats making decisions over our lives, where were they whenever their god, Anthony Fauci, was forcing vaccine and mask mandates on the American people for 4 years during the, during the COVID crisis? Where were they whenever unelected Alejandro Mayorkas was facilitating the invasion of our country by illegal aliens who were murdering and raping and
he's had a bit of a
pillaging our
setback.
people? Where were they whenever the
they think he has
Secretary of
pneumonia, so he's
Education,
being evaluated for that.
Cardona,
So he is
targeted
actually
states
not
and
going
schools
anywhere.
and people who were
Unfortunately,
disagreed with his view of the radical left's transgender ideology?
Yeah, he's still there.
Where were they whenever Gary Gensler, former chairman of the SEC, also unelected, was lawlessly thwarting the development of financial markets, particularly in the crypto space, by lawlessly pursuing regulation via enforcement? They were nowhere to be seen because they don't care. Because all of those things benefited
he had a little stretch where he was
their side
doing
of the
good,
aisle
and now
at the
he's.
expense of ours.
But
And perhaps
I think
that's
he'll be
also
all right.
why they don't seem to be very interested in rooting out improper
Thank
payments
you.
from our federal government. If you wonder why so many people are cynical
Gloria told me about it
American
this morning. She said
politics,
you guys had
this is
some-
it.
some-
This is
some
exactly
serious snow.
why. The reality is that Elon Musk serves as an employee of the president, and we were given a massive mandate to carry out what he's been doing. His job is to carry out the will of the American people as expressed through the executive. That's exactly how the Constitution is supposed to work. The Constitution did not create an unelected, unaccountable 4th branch of government in the administrative state. The American people know this. My colleague Brian Jack discussed some of the opinion polls recently. We are doing, and President Trump is doing exactly what he was elected to do. And that's why he's polling at a 53% approval rating, higher than he was at any point during his first administration. Even Elon Musk and his Doge efforts now are polling at a 49% approval rating, which just to point out, is 16 points higher than President Biden was polling at whenever he finished his term in office. The Democrat Party has for decades systematically grown and weaponized the administrative state against the American people, and the American people have had enough of it. Right now, we're talking about $2.7 trillion in improper payments since 2003. We're uncovering what could be the biggest money laundering scandal in American history. And the other side of the aisle could care less. They have no concern about where this money went, to what entities it went, to what governments, to what people or groups, nothing. All they want to talk about is Elon Musk incessantly. So it does make me wonder, if they don't care about where it's going, do they have an idea? Because what we've uncovered so far is that so much of the waste, fraud, and abuse of our federal government is actually funding their side of the aisle. It's funding media outlets that are running cover for Democrats routinely. The NPR, PBS, the BBC, Politico. It's going to fund left-wing NGOs that are facilitating the invasion of our country. It's going to fund left-wing transgender activism and sex changes all over the globe. This is money that's being used, taken from the American people and used against their interests. If you care about rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse, we should be serious about this. I'm very excited to be on this committee. I'm excited to expose what's being going on. Thank you, Madam Chair. And with that, I yield.
The gentleman yields. In closing, I want to thank our witnesses again for their testimonies today. I now yield to the ranking member for closing remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Well, I never thought so many conspiracy theories and wild accusations could be wound into one 5-minute speech, but I appreciate my friends across the aisle. First of all, let's talk about this massive mandate that supposedly brought Donald Trump into office. Donald Trump did not run on putting an unelected billionaire in charge of dismantling the federal government. He ran on lowering prices for Americans. And I think it's interesting that while we're sitting here this morning, the top of the New York Times is reporting that inflation has risen unexpectedly as food and energy prices have soared. What's going on, guys? I thought you were going to tackle inflation and food and energy prices. Isn't that what the executive orders were supposed to do? Oh, wait. Or is dismantling diversity, equity, and inclusion in our federal agencies and putting an ideological agenda and trying to fire the federal workforce your actual agenda? Have you been too busy trying to actually address the fiscal health of this country? Because the numbers are telling us that you have. So let's be real about what's going on here. I also want to point out that literally while we've been sitting here for the last almost 2 hours getting lectured on fiscal responsibility, literally the Republicans just released their plan to raise the debt limit while we were sitting here. And they want to raise it by $4 trillion. Okay, guys, like literally, I'm just like without words. Inflation is going up. You want to raise the debt ceiling by $4 trillion. You want to gut Medicare. You want to gut Medicaid. You're talking about going after Social Security after promising that you wouldn't. I mean, really, what the heck is going on here? We're not trying to take down Elon Musk as a businessman. This dude is literally breaking the law inside of the federal government. And for a party that is supposed to be the party of law and order, in quotes, I really do not see you holding him accountable and doing your most basic constitutional responsibility in the separation of powers. So I want to end where I started. We are the Oversight Committee. We are the people's house for the United States of America. We represent the American people. And so, Mr. Elon Musk, if you would like to appear in front of the Oversight Committee, you have been duly invited. Please come tell us what you're doing. Come testify in front of the American people. And please Come hold yourself to account. With that, I yield back.
The gentlelady yields. I now recognize myself for closing remarks. President Trump was elected with a mandate to rein in unaccountable bureaucracy in Washington and to wage war on waste. I know that because I campaigned alongside him, and so did my colleagues. This hearing was the first battle of that war. And in the coming days, the subcommittee will release a report with legislative solutions to the problems we have identified here today. We aren't going to wait all the way until the end of this Congress. We're going to get to work immediately. The bureaucrats who have run Washington for decades are beyond the point of forgiveness. Their sheer incompetence and pure spite for the hardworking American people have resulted in total failure. The federal government has made over $2.7 trillion in improper payments since 2003. Including $236 billion in 2023 alone. Those are trillions of dollars that honest Americans have paid in taxes at gunpoint over the years. As we approach April 15th, Americans are once again preparing to do their taxes and fork over their unfair share of money it takes to run this country. And I have to tell you, the American people have not been getting their money's worth for a long time. Most improper payments in recent years were issued through 5 programs: Medicare, Medicaid, the Earned Income Tax Credit, Pandemic Unemployment Insurance, and the Paycheck Protection Program. But a total of 16 federal programs had improper payment rates of 10% or more in 2023. That includes SNAP, the federal food stamp program, which paid out $10 billion taxpayer dollars improperly. To get their arms around this problem, Elon Musk and the Doge team went straight to the source. They went to the Treasury Department's fiscal service, which makes about 90% of the trillions in federal payments issued annually. The audit of these payment systems was long overdue. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent gave Doge employees working for the government read-only access to these systems so they could conduct that initial audit. That audit is already paying dividends. Musk learned that the databases federal agencies are supposed to check to prevent payments to fraudsters, crime rings, and dead people are not being kept up to date. Going forward, we are going to get more mileage out of these do not pay databases. That means fewer improper payments and less fraud and waste of taxpayer dollars. Despite this fraud that's already been revealed, a federal judge in New York issued a ruling last Friday that ran totally contrary to the will of the people. The judge blocked not only Doge, but the Treasury Secretary himself from accessing his own agency's payment systems. That's absurd. Only career Treasury Department unelected bureaucrats can access the system, the judge ruled. This turns the Constitution on its head. We will hold this judge and others who try to stop the will of the people and their elected leaders accountable. As is written in the Federalist Papers, the judiciary has no influence over either the sword or the purse, no direction either of the strength or the wealth of the society. It may truly be said to have neither force nor will, but merely judgment, and must ultimately depend upon the aid of the executive arm for the efficacy of its judgments. But the whole DC swamp is freaking out that the unelected officials from Doge were allowed access to these systems. That makes no sense. Federal judges were not elected. The Treasury bureaucrats were not elected, and they have failed to fix the problem that is enabling American taxpayers to be robbed. So why not bring in skilled outside experts like private companies and private citizens who are successful in the real world to do everyday work that we need to get done here, like audits? Of course, federal payment systems are only one link in the improper payment chain. We need to look at other links in the chain. We need better front-end identify verification to screen out fraudsters, and we need to close eligibility loopholes. That means not letting applicants self-attest to their own eligibility. And it means ending categorical eligibility, which lets someone who fraudulently qualifies for one federal benefit automatically get other federal benefits. Finally, we need to better coordinate fraud prevention efforts between federal governments and the states. These are all issues that we will be taking a hard look at in this committee and coming up with solutions to, including legislation and referrals to committees of jurisdiction that will deliver for the American people. With that and without objection, all members have 5 legislative days within which to submit materials and additional written questions for the witnesses, which will be forwarded to the witnesses. If there is no further business without objection, the subcommittee stands adjourned.
Parents, do your kids know what courage really means? It's about standing up for America even when there's a target on your back. That's why Mike Huckabee's team created the Kids Guide to the Courage of the President. This important guide tells kids everything they need to know about President Trump's unwavering courage, and you can get it for free. With your free order, you will receive free bonus gifts, including the Kids Guide to President Trump and a Christmas ornament commemorating Trump's call for us to fight. Get it all for free at freetrumpbook.com. That's freetrumpbook.com.
Hey, y'all.
All right, y'all. I'm back. Child, yo, the Democrats are so cooked. Trump is going to stamp out corruption over there in the UK. He has so much support here. He's, I mean, no facts. But yeah, folks, they want to be mad and do all this hollering and screaming, and because again, we had all of that going on, and what was the whole point? What was the point? All right, yeah. There was no point to that at all. No. Okay, Tulsi. Okay, Tulsi Gabbard she was confirmed. She was confirmed. Got that notification a few minutes ago. Trying to see what else going on. Yeah, child, this is just Eric. They trying to stand on business. They trying to stand on business. These folk. Wow. I'm still back there on Jasmine Crockett with the dry wig. Like, why? We on her with the dry wig. This hurt my feelings. I was on the phone, y'all. Are they on lunch break or are they done for the day? Somebody let me know. Okay. Okay. That's all right. I mean, we are welcome to all thoughts, opinions, and ideas. Nobody did another one of these. Okay, I appreciate it. Good looking out. Let me see what's going on over here. I mean, they up here with the whole I just want to be seen because again, what are y'all gonna do? What are they gonna do? Somebody let me know. Eric, you still in here? Let me know. I got any mods in here? They're still hanging on. Derek, what's going on? They on lunch break? Oh no, wait a minute. They on their way back up in here again with the nonsense. Hold on. We get them back on the screen for y'all. Okay. Y'all still here. Good looking out. Good looking out. With the foo. Let's see what old boy talking about real quick. See, I got Mr. Cameraman. He all up in the spot. Find this over here. That's what I ain't carried to do. Shit, I'm trying to tell you with all this flu and everything going on. I'm like, I'm gonna have my mask on. Y'all doing too much. Way too much. That's how we doing. How long y'all think this gonna go on? You said it's crazy how a child, because they were trying to, Derek, they were trying to open up notebooks. They weren't trying to have none of this out for the masses. But what gets me is how the American people haven't, demanded that something change. That's the part that's got me. It's knowledge that we have not passed our last 7 audits. Why would you not be like, okay, what's going on? Just go to show how you're saying folks with all this fake interest. We caring about what's going on. Don't be caring at all about what be going on. What y'all doing? And then there, as you see, they still not. Y'all saying trying to give up the access. Oh yeah. Because I'm just saying, we talking about Elon. If he really wanted to hack, I think he'd be successful. That's just me. Yeah, come on. Mhm. You say I'm calling all these. What you say, Pamela? I'm calling these Democrats and giving them a piece of my mind. People need to call these one world agenda. So exactly, exactly. You talking about? Child, he been shady. Derek, he was shady the whole time. Hi, Pamela. Yeah, he was a tool. Let me put it like that. He was a tool. He didn't really do anything for the people as a whole, just certain populaces. He did exactly what they told him to do, and that was it.
This hearing of the subcommittee on delivering on government efficiency will
Here we
come to
go.
order.
Coming
Welcome,
to order.
everyone. Without objection,
Thank you,
the chair
Eric.
may
Yes,
declare a
fly
recess
Eagles,
at any
fly.
time. Also, for today's hearing, Chairman Comer and Ranking Member Connolly will each be recognized for 1 minute after me and the ranking member provide our opening statements. I recognize.
I mean, I don't have no problem with people working from home. You know what I'm saying? As long, you proven, you got a proven track record of doing what you're supposed
Today,
to
we
do.
begin
Your
the
work is
first
quality.
hearing on the
I don't
Oversight
have a
Subcommittee
problem
on
with it
DOGE.
because I currently work
This
from home.
committee will be laser focused on bringing full transparency
Everything's
to
still not
waste, fraud, and abuse within the federal government and presenting the plans to fix the tremendous problems we expose. We as a country are $36 trillion in debt. That is such a stunning amount of money. It's absolutely staggering to even comprehend how we as a people, we as a country, found ourselves here. This is not a Democrat problem. This is not a Republican problem. This is an American problem. To make it clear for everyone, not only are we $36 trillion in debt, but the compounding interest on our debt is also growing out of control. Even if we decided to defund the entire federal government, we cannot escape our debt and the compounding interest owed on our debt, which grows bigger and bigger every year. In 2025, interest payments are projected to be $952 billion,
Woo,
which is
child.
more than our entire military budget. In 2026, it will be $1 trillion.
Exactly, Derek. Exactly.
2035,
Never, not never. It's still, and it'll be more money going out we know about.
Projected to be $13.8 trillion. These interest payments don't serve a single American. They don't build a bridge, a road, provide disaster relief, or fund a single part of the behemoth that is the federal government. These interest payments pay our masters who own our debt, and the American people are in debt slavery to everyone who owns our debt. Our crippling national debt and massively growing interest on our debt will destroy us. Not destroy one political party or the other, it will destroy all of us together. It drives inflation, making life unaffordable for Americans struggling to financially survive. It is crippling small businesses struggling to be successful. Our massively growing debt and interest are the chains and shackles harnessed to every American and their children and every generation to come. But first, let us be brutally honest about how this massive debt came to be in the first place. It came from Congress and from elected presidential administrations. And I believe enslaving our nation in debt is one of the biggest betrayals against the American people by its own elected government. The American people's anger over this betrayal is what gave birth to the concept of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. In fact, DOGE became a major part of President Trump's campaign and led to his overwhelming victory in November. Every day, Americans go to work. They run businesses.
Have I heard from
They
Death?
have to earn
I
their
sent Death Note the
paycheck.
link, child.
No
I don't
one
know. He act like he
guarantees
mad
it.
at me, so I
And
don't
if
know
they don't do a good job,
what's going on
they get fired.
with Death
They
Note.
also have to pay their bills, credit card debts, balance their checkbooks, and scrap and save every penny they can in order to plan for that rainy day and hopefully retirement one day. Private businesses only survive on hard-earned income by serving their customers so well that their customers pay them for the services and products they consume. If that business fails, its employees lose their jobs and paychecks, and the owners lose their business and everything they risked along with it. Many go bankrupt in this process and lose everything. No one bails them out. They only survive by excellent customer service and smart financial management. This is the real world that most Americans live, work, and survive in every day. This is the pursuit of happiness, and this is how you pursue the American dream. However, the federal government, government employees, and unelected bureaucrats do not live by the same rules as the great American people and private businesses. The federal government's income is the American people's hard-earned tax dollars, their literal blood, sweat, and tears. And taxes are collected by law at gunpoint. Don't pay your taxes and you go to jail. The federal government does not have to provide excellent customer service to earn its income. It takes your money whether you like it or not. And federal employees receive their paycheck no matter what. Whether veterans receive their benefits or not, whether your mail shows up or not, and whether your tax dollars are used to
Child, of course, child. Hey, Dylan, welcome. Child, I can. I absolutely can. Child, we be in a whole mess. A whole mess.
How bad the federal government fails the American people, it still takes your money. It still pays its own federal employees, and it never, ever goes out of business. There are no consequences for bad customer service, total failure, and for enslaving the American people against their will in the ever-growing and future all-consuming national debt. Congress has a dismal approval rating that ranges between 12 and 20%. I don't blame the American people one bit for their sentiment and disgust. The American people will be watching this committee and how we tackle one of the biggest problems of our time. While we are a committee made up of the opposite far-reaching corners of Congress.
Okay, y'all, I'm gonna let her finish because they have restarted this. This is literally on replay. So I'm gonna let her finish, and then I think we might have to wrap up.
We as Republicans and Democrats can still hold tightly to our beliefs, but we are going to have to let go of funding them in order to save our sinking ship. This is not a time for political theater and partisan attacks. The American people are watching. The legislative branch can't sit on the sidelines. In this subcommittee, we will fight the war on waste, shoulder to shoulder with President Trump, Elon Musk, and the DOGE team. This week, we turn our attention to improper payments by the federal government, including in Medicaid and Medicare. I'm looking forward to what we find out and how to solve this crisis. I now yield to the ranking member, Ms. Stansbury, for her opening statement.
Okay, y'all. So yeah, that was how it began. Looks like it is actually over. Y'all, I don't understand what the whole point of this was, but look, if they're gonna put it out here, we gonna watch it. We gonna watch it and watch them embarrass themselves, and we gonna keep the party moving. Yeah, I don't even know where to begin. Why you say, hold on, why does he need to be out? Why does he need to be out? What you say? Hey, Uncle Rick. He said, so refreshing to see transparent government. After the dust settles, there are lots and lots of people who need to be put in prison for life. Facts? Yeah, them facts. You say the lights on, they scared. Okay. Listen, I'm still back on. We had Roy Orbison up in the spot. We had Becky Comedy Hour. We had Dry Wig Crockett. And we still don't know why they don't want to get this man this access. What you say, Pamela? I'm in Idaho. We speak up, and people need to be calling and emailing their Congress people. They speaking. Ooh, girl, you just said a word right there. So Monday evening, I was checking on my granddaddy. For those of y'all who know, y'all know. And I get a text message from our Alma Adams, our Congresswoman, and I ain't really paying no attention. Then I started getting these funny phone calls. So I checked my voicemail. Child, they had a whole Zoom town hall to try to figure out what they're gonna do about Trump. As if we say I'm emailing my senator and congressman today after work. You say, Dylan, because he's not been successful, he's been bankrupt and needed to be saved multiple times and no security clearance. Successful businessmen know when and how to use bankruptcy. Bankruptcy doesn't mean you don't have any money. That's not really what that means. But again, successful businessmen know how to work that. Hold on. Trump says, hold on, y'all. We got some breaking news. Wait. Trump said, this just came across my phone. Trump said he spoke to Putin about immediately starting talks on ending the war in Ukraine. So what did Fauci get ousted? Who voted? Everybody. Hey, yeah. Tell my money Trump gave him. Oh, good grief. Okay. We gon' I know plenty of people who have filed bankruptcy and got money. Hey, I don't, every time I turn around, I see a Tesla. What's that? He dropped down here for the hurricane people. Was it Skylink? They just signed a deal with T-Mobile. Oh, that sounds like money to me. Right. Bankruptcy is a tool. If you can use it and you know how to, then have at it. Have at it. So I mean, listen. Only a fool would spend all their money on something that's not going to ever yield any money. That's dumb. And so essentially, bankruptcy is like, let me go ahead and cut my losses and focus on something else. Exactly. Anyone can file for bankruptcy and be allowed to keep their business. Exactly, Derek. What you saying, Uncle Rick? Is y'all fault? Y'all ignorant to what is and what to what is and how it works. Listen, you know what, Uncle Rick, you was getting it in yesterday. I ain't even gonna lie. Truck Chronicles was fire yesterday. So for those of y'all who don't know and have not been present, y'all need to go ahead and subscribe to Uncle Rick and make sure you don't miss Truck Chronicles, because child, it'd be just the most wonderful information. Just yeah. Yeah, y'all go ahead and hit the like button. But where did he where did he go? He get no response. She said, apparently the U.S. is a corporation. People need to realize we are all collateral. We are Let me go back because I can read, y'all. I promise. The U.S. is a corporation. People need to realize that we are all the collateral of these loans. If we default, so does our country. Yeah. Okay, what you say, Dylan? And the new person running the FAA, there's been multiple plane crashes back to back also. He been running that for what? It ain't even been a month. Today is February the 12th. And all them crashes been in like the last 2 weeks. So literally about a week after inauguration, planes started falling out the sky. So we can't even blame that on the new administration. Because they still was running under old rules. So yeah, we can't really dump that on him. Can't do it. Not at all. Exactly, Derek. How's that Trump fault? Don't worry, we'll wait. Funny how these were the same issues with Biden, but y'all was saying it was all good. Okay. Thomas say it's some sad times for the thieves up in DC since Trump shut USA down, also known as the endless piggyback. Facts. Okay, again, what does somebody newly being appointed to a position have to do with somebody who been already operating in their job and supposed to be proficient, in what they supposed to be doing? If your job is the same and you've been proficient at it this whole time, how does you get the new boss completely throw you off your job? It doesn't. Yeah, I don't think so. But again, that's just like me. I know my job. I come in, I perform my job. My boss is not sitting right next to me. If she leave tomorrow, I'm still going to be able to come in here and do my job. You know what I'm saying? The same way. Me getting a new boss next week doesn't mean that all my job is just completely wiped off and now I'm just flying blind. No. You say, do you look for a snake under every rock? Child, I ain't for, okay. Uncle Rick. Same people who say they are oppressed and treated unfairly by the system fight for the same system. So you got them new slaves. Okay. What you say, Pamela? Idaho Congress is only in session 2 months a year. They trying to pass laws to cut ties with the federal government and its money. We hope they succeed. Okay. Ooh-wee. Okay. That part, Derek. That part. If you know your job and you good at it, then you should be able to keep on trucking. So whoever your boss is, really, they ain't got that much bearing on your job, especially that high up. We talking, you running the FAA is, I must say, a good 6 or 7 steps up from you being an actual pilot. Did you say, Rick, send it back to the states? All of it. Yeah. And let the cream rise to the top. Absolutely. 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 If the states get money from the feds, they are required to follow Fed rules. Child, which they not doing. They ain't doing it at all. Yeah, but who actually checks to make sure that the states are following the federal rules? Like, I don't know. So if y'all know, let me know. Oh, y'all look at who is here. We got the mysterious one, Death Note in the house. Hey, what you say, Jonathan? Majors come back to Trump fault too. Hey, listen, somebody will say it is. Say thank you for the chat. Yeah, we need to unite behind the other. Yeah. Y'all need to. Oh, here it is. That's exactly what I needed. But yeah, child, if somebody know, y'all let me know, cause I ain't got a clue. Cause that's who need to get fired. Whoever's job it is to make sure that states that are receiving federal money are doing what they're supposed to do with the money. That's who need to get fired first, cause they clearly ain't on their job. Clearly. So quit worrying about Elon and find out who that is. If y'all need me to come do it, just call me. Y'all know where to find me. I'll come hook it right up. Because I can tell you for a fact, North Carolina funky with the money. I can tell you for a fact, it's all kind of money missing around here. So y'all figure that part out. Anybody got y'all up in here quiet? Folks in their feelings? Let us know. Child, what she's supposed to say? Hey, I agree, all lives matter. We are all children of God and we bear crosses physically and mentally. It's what we do with those crosses that define us. We pray. This is what I'm talking about, Pamela. And I remember I had this conversation with my mom one time about that. Like we all have crosses, you know what I'm saying, that carry. Some days that cross is heavy and some days that cross is light. Like you just gotta pray for the strength to keep on stepping. Cause I'm trying to tell you, it has been some days, child. That cross been so heavy, I didn't even think I could get up. I'm trying to tell you. We said we need to vote blue and stop this in the midterms. Oh, okay. That's what we need to do. What is it that we need to stop, Death Note? Just so we can be clear. What in your opinion do we need to stop? Destroying democracy. So you're saying that the current administration is on a mission to destroy democracy. Is that right? Lord, Eric saying, I ain't never voting blue. Okay. I see you. You say they ain't acting Project 2025. How so, sir? How so? They taking away our rights. What rights? Let us know. What rights are they taking away, Death Note? Talk to me. This gonna be good. I need to know. Okay, there, I did. I'm taking a look at it real quick. You say, but we can't also put the word of God to best suit our situation. Satan knows the Bible as well, and he is tempted by Christ 3 times, rewarding it. We are exactly. Yeah, I mean, if you gon' you know what I'm saying, follow the book, follow the book. You can't rewrite and then follow. What you say, Death Note? The deported people who did nothing wrong. I mean, so explain to us how sneaking in the country ain't wrong. We need, what you say, Lauren? We need more and or third parties. Both parties are entrenched in corrupt. You're right. It should be different kinds of corruption. You're right, though, Lauren. No lie. Said Project 2025 been running since 1970. This ain't nothing different from that. You know what? Okay. What they say, Eric, ain't nothing new under the sun. You said they seek asylum. So wait, because I know certain countries, you know what I'm saying, and you know, they got some situations, and you know, we let people come over here. But why can't you get your paperwork and stuff together? And the way they talk, like the whole world need, you know what I'm saying, asylum. We ain't got the type. Sorry. All right, thanks for stopping by, Lauren. See you later. Yeah, child, let everybody need asylum. Nah. Hey, Trucker, how you doing? You think God appointed Biden to uncover what's going on? How he do that? God makes no mistakes. How he do? Americans shouldn't be so. What? Oh my God! Really? This is what you? Okay, Death Note. All right, y'all. What y'all think about? What do y'all think about Death Note's comments? What y'all think? We should just let the people in. Wow. Okay. Derek say nope. Why not, Derek? Let me see what you sent me. Let me look. Hold on. You said closing USA's causing people to suffer. Okay. Wow. He said having to go through the proper channels. Okay, cool. God allowed Biden in order for the corruption to become clearer in the agenda of the WEF. It was exposed. It's up to us to make. Okay. Okay. Okay, I see what you're saying. So Joe had to come in and be so horrible and so blatant with the foolishness that it opened up the eyes to a lot of Americans, and they therefore voted for Trump. Got it. Okay. I mean, I can't say that ain't accurate. Yeah. Can't say that's not facts. So we gonna ride with it. So okay, Pam. So what do we do about the ones who just refuse to get with the program? Okay, Pam. So Gail's one of my mods. So what you say, Derek? Send them back. Ain't we already doing that? We already doing that. Hold on, y'all. Let me see what's going on. Oh, wait a minute. Trump provides readout of call with Putin. Listen. See, it's costing us money. Okay, y'all. So this just appeared was posted on True Social. I just had a lengthy and highly productive phone conversation with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. We discussed Ukraine, the Middle East, energy, art. Hold on, y'all. Okay, hold on, y'all. What? Wait. Okay, let me go back. Definitely talking. Let's see. Definitely got a lot to say today. Okay, he said, yeah, of course they talking, they friends. I mean, it is what it is. Several red states are actively letting veterans train in. Okay. Hey Dover, how you been? President Musk making moves. You sound like my daddy right there. So these red states doing too much. They are training is a coordinated effort with the states as there's a real threat to our cell by now by the Taliban, Al Qaeda, China, all them coming together. Okay. Plan for this year. Okay. Derek Death Note, what's wrong with that? It's costing us billions to fund war there. America needs to stop fighting proxy wars. Biden didn't do anything to stop it. He said, but Trump bad. Okay. Dover. I wonder how much war will cost once it spills over to a NATO country. Child, I don't even want to know. We would have to send our young men to fight. Yeah, that ain't working. Death Note said they are fighting to exist and we helping. They said Biden pulled out of Afghanistan August 28th, 21. Military was not given notice of that. They left the biometric and personnel info. They did. Let's say Trump initiated the withdrawal. Let's say Chinese pulled out of background headquarters 2 days after our leaving. Nothing was destroyed. Listen. Y'all, hey. Y'all, child, it is interesting. We're in these chats to see people see things so differently. Not saying anybody's right, anybody's wrong. It's just interesting to see how people see things so differently. Back to Trump. Hold on. Where was I? Okay, let's see. Yeah, we discussed Ukraine, the Middle East, energy, artificial intelligence, the power of the dollar, and various other subjects. We both reflected on the great history of our nations and the fact that we fought so successfully together in World War II, remembering that Russia lost tens of millions of people and we likewise lost so many. We each talked about the strength of our respective nations and the great benefit that we will someday have in working together. Okay. But first, as we both agreed, we want to stop the millions of deaths taking place in the war with Russia/Ukraine. President Putin used my very strong campaign motto of common sense. We both believe very strongly in it. We agreed to work together very closely, including visiting each other's nations. Oh, hell, Russia. Trump going to Russia. Oh, hell. Okay. We also agreed to have our respective teams start negotiations immediately, and we will begin by calling President Zelensky of Ukraine to inform him of the conversation, something which I will be doing right now. Child, okay. That's what you say. I have asked Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the Director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe, and National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, Ambassador and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to lead the negotiations. Child, okay, that's a lot of people in them negotiations. But anyway. That's a council, child. But anyway, which I feel strongly would be successful. Millions of people have died in a war that would not have happened if I were president, but it did happen, so it must end. Okay. No more lives should be lost. I want to thank President Putin for his time and effort with respect to this call and for release yesterday of Mark Fogel, a wonderful man that I personally greeted last night at the White House. I believe this effort will lead to a successful conclusion, hopefully soon. That was from our president, Donald Trump. Listen, Trump going to Ukraine. I want to go. I mean, to Russia. I want to go. Just definitely say MAGA folks are extreme. Okay. Just say Hassan bin Laden, Osama's son, is on a revenge mission. He's head of Al Qaeda now. Man, are we for real sure that bin Laden dead? I mean, yeah. Cause y'all so much y'all put the body out to sea to you know what I'm saying, respect, you know what I'm saying, their culture and all that, but you killed a man, so you really have no respect for the culture, but I digress. So how we know who you put out there is really him? Cause I just got a feeling we're gonna get some videos of some folks, and I'm gonna be like, but I'm gonna leave it at that. What you say? I don't worship Trump. I'm sorry if you think it's extreme. I'm a 62-year-old great grandma, and we are in the veterans family. We are aware of what's going on. Okay, Eric say Trump standing on business. Christ is king. I feel you, Pamela. I feel you. Christ is king. Y'all make sure y'all don't forget. He is. Amen. 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 But yeah, y'all. But wait, but I don't. What did he say? He said MAGA folks is extreme. I don't see nothing about no worship. But anyway, I'm just still. I mean, do y'all really think Bin Laden dead? Or y'all think he's somewhere cooling his heels? He's just sitting back waiting for all the Democratic leadership to be voted out, and then he gonna, you know what I'm saying, jump out and be like, here I am. What y'all think? Okay, so his son they thought was dead. He's not. If you look him up, you'll find he's alive. Europe has acknowledged that. They also want revenge on Trump for their general's death. Now I ain't talking about Bin Laden's son. I'm talking about Osama himself. Like, y'all think he's somewhere kicking it, or y'all think he really did? Derek, try get to the doctor. Don't be playing around with that. Don't do you like you be doing me. Don't play around with that. Get your butt in there. Hold up. Pamela, what general you talking about? I mean, okay, I know the son is alive. I'm talking about Osama. Yeah, child, get your butt in there with that doctor. Stop playing. This is what I'm saying, Eric. I'm you know me. Until I see some, I need I need a body, some body parts, and how. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. When did Osama set foot on American soil? Like, when did he set foot on American soil for us to have his DNA to be able to confirm that was really him? Because how else will we have access to his DNA? Okay, never. That's what I thought, Eric. I don't claim to be the smartest person, but I thought I had that part right. And so, if he never set foot on American soil, where did we get access to this DNA to confirm that was really him that we quote unquote killed? I just be having questions. General Soleimani. Okay. Hold on. Let me pull that up. Let me pull him up real quick and get the info. Devno, you know about any of this? If you still in here. Okay, so January 3rd, 2020. Okay. Soleimani, Iranian major general killed by American drone strike ordered by Trump, U.S. President Donald Trump near Baghdad International Airport in Iraq while traveling. Okay, he's on his way to meet the Prime Minister. Got it. Okay, so he got caught up in the. I mean, but was the strike targeted to take him out, or was he just a casualty? What you say? We don't have proof of Osama's demise. They dumped him in the ocean. That's what they say. They only did check on him by having a SEAL member lay down beside him. Child by. Okay, so he was okay. Soleimani was targeted. Okay, Soleimani, excuse me. Okay. Well, I mean, what'd he do? What'd he do? Okay. He got blasted. All right. I guess that's what I'm saying. Okay, why was he targeted? He led the most of the terrorism going on over there. Okay, so he gone, but why is it still problems over there then? Yeah, so if he gone, what's the problem? Hmm. What's going on, sheep? Say Florida has already put their military, National Guard, first responders, police, and veterans together to work cohesively in an event of an attack. DeSantis took the threat seriously. Okay. Really? Hey, I'm not. Listen. Yeah, I'm interested in what I'm gonna have to go and see if I can find under Biden, the federal government didn't do anything about it. Now other states are doing it. I mean, yeah, folks was real slack because they was busy, yeah, busy trying to force everybody to go back into the office to work as if that was important. That's what they was worried about. Yeah, that's what they interest was in, trying to make people come back to work. in the office. Well, they should have been worrying about some other stuff. I know that works. All right, y'all. Sorry about that. Yeah, my granddaddy back in the hospital, so they be calling, so I have to make sure he good. Hey Hassan, how you doing? I told you I was coming. I appreciate you checking on me and wanting to know when I am gonna be back. But I am here. What you say? Listen, intel that they took out our grid, water sources, communication, along with salt. How all that jump off? Okay, good, Derek. Child, don't be playing around with that. Well, we know they in the country. We let them in. We let everybody in, except the Haitians. They're about the only ones don't get to come in, but that's what it is. Let's see what else we got. Okay, there. Have you been working on the merchandise? Let me know. You been working on the merchandise? Hold on. Cincinnati Children's Hospital denies VP JD Vance's 12-year-old relative a heart transplant because she's not vaccinated against C-19. For real? That's crazy. That's still a requirement. Anybody know? Okay, so Derek, what's gonna be on the Tumblr? Let me know. And who making it? I mean, am I gonna make it? We doing a raffle? Like, what we doing? You the merchandise coordinator. So let me know. What we doing? Let me know. What you say? You don't think? Okay, Eric, you say you don't think so. Oh, okay. Yes, he did. Yeah, let us know. Let us know how we gonna handle that, Mr. Merchandise coordinator. All right, y'all. I got a meeting I got to go to in a few minutes, so we're gonna go ahead and shut this down. Anything else jump off, I will definitely be back and let y'all know. I appreciate all of you hanging out for the later part of this morning and early part of this afternoon. You too, Derek. Stay out of trouble. And do what the doctor tell you to do. I will see y'all later. Make sure you got your notifications on because we will be back. And y'all have a good day. Bye.